they were away from God. They were far away from God. And because of that, they kept telling Job to curse God, so Satan can leave him alone. And Job did not listen to them. And that is why, if it was them, they would have lost their fight. But because there was a faithful man, what happened? He brought them to God. So it's always people around you. They might be weak, but they need you to be strong. Life? To be strong. So what happened is you can change people's life by your patience. With his patience, changed his wife, faith, and all the people, his friends that were around him. Okay, so we talked about Job, then we talked about Joseph. We talked about Joseph. We know Joseph's story, right?
Yes.
You know Joseph's story? Joseph was thrown in the well by his brothers. We all know his story. And then he was sold to the Ishmaelites, and then he was given to the Egyptians. لا؟ هم زملان باسد بابا يوسف دقيقة مداري لجوبيرت مية خونواته ودت دخيتي له إشمالاية كم شقليلة وخرطة كم زبنيلة كم مصراية وخرطة. The Egyptians bought him, and then he put him. Who bought him? The head of the prisoners, Potiphar. He bought him and he put him in his castle, and he became a worker in his castle. But it says what? What's amazing about all this? It says God's hand was always on Joseph. God never left Joseph. But what was amazing about Joseph? He went from the pit to prison to palace. From pit to prison to palace. Okay? He became the right hand of the Pharaoh. And that's another story of patience of Joseph. The patience that Joseph had. Right? His brother threw him in the well, and then they sold him because they were jealous of him. He was 17 years old. And when he came out of prison, we're gonna talk about that, by the way. We're gonna because that's where we at, right? This was the last thing we talked about.
Yes.
That then the Pharaoh said, how can even we find a man with this faith? You see, whom is the Spirit of God? You see, it says a man in whom is the Spirit of God. So Pharaoh had a dream, and he wanted someone to tell him, to explain his dream, and he did. Who did? Joseph was in jail, and they pulled him out, and he told them his dream, and he explained his dream about the 7 fat cows and the 7 slim cows, right? Or skinny cows. And the skinny ate the fat, right? And then those were the 7 years of prosperity versus the 7 years of hunger in Egypt that was about to come in the world. So what happened? Joseph came and explained the dream, and then he put him in charge to solve this puzzle. And he said, if we take a certain percentage of your harvest for the prosperous years, and we keep it in storages, and then we can keep for every year of hunger, then we're gonna have enough for those 7 years that we're gonna have hunger, right? So he took from the 7 years of prosperity and kept for the 7 years of hunger. And that is why it was amazing about Joseph that we talked about. So Joseph was in the well, and then he went into, because his master's wife wanted to sleep with him, so she ripped his clothes off of his body, because he said, how can I sin against God? He didn't say, how I'm gonna sin against my master. He said, how can I sin against my God? She was doing this every single day. It was going on for years, until one time she caught him, and she just didn't want him to go, because she kept insisting that he has to sleep with her. Okay? And then she ripped his shirt off his body, and then she yelled, and then we talked about it, how they came and they put him in prison. He didn't even say a word. Why? because he believed that God has a plan for him. And that is called patience. See? So he didn't say, no, I didn't do it, no, she did it, no, nothing. He went to jail, just the way if God wants me out, God will take me out. And that's what exactly happened. So he was 17 when he was in the well, and then he was 30 when he came out of prison. And he became Pharaoh's right hand. And then we said there is similarities between Joseph's story and Jesus. There is almost 100 similarities between Joseph and Jesus. That's why we have patience for him. Okay, so let's read Genesis 41, 46 through 52. Genesis, we go to Joseph's story. Let's finish it, guys. This is where we stopped, I believe. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. ما نبقى لنا قلم بالسورة. Genesis 41. And we take it from there. Genesis 41.
شقرين بعربي
قرأ خير قرأ إن آدم قال أخلاها ما دخلوا
من 46 لا
46 هل 52
okay. وكان يوسف ابن 30 سنة لما وقف قدام فرعون ملك مصر فخرج يوسف من بلاد فرعون واجتاز في كل أرض مصر وأثمرت الأرض في 7 سنين الشبع بجزم فجمع كل الطعام 7 سنين التي كانت في أرض مصر وجعل طعاما في المدن طعام حقل المدينة التي حواليها جعله فيها وخزن يوسف قمحا كرمل البحر كثيرا جدا حتى ترك العدد إذ لم يكن له عدد وولد يوسف ابنا قبل أن يأتي سنة الجوع ولدتهما له أسنان بنت فوطي فارعة كاهن أونا ودعا يوسف اسم البكري منشي
منشي
بلا شفته كل قائلا هي منسي لأن الله أنساني كل تعبي وكل بيت أبي ودعا اسم الثاني أفرايم قائلا لأن الله جعلني مثمرا في أرض مدلتي
بس مليان سو مودي بغزاي لخا بغزاي قد بابا يوسف بيلة تلاقي شنة وهدية بيلة سبب إلى توصت مشيخة إيمان مشيخة إيوا جو مختمر الدانة خيلوته تيوا وضع جبوياته وتيوا خيلت على هجاوي وتيلا الله روح قدشة. So Jesus was 30 years old when he got baptized, and that is when he had all the power and he was doing all the miracles when he was 30. And we see Joseph here is 30. It's one of the similarities that he is coming out to be the right hand of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, from now on, you are in my place. I am only here in name, but everything is under you. You can do anything you want. And that is why he was able to take the 7 years of prosperity and keep some of that food for the 7 years that are about to come, according to the dream of Pharaoh, that 7 years of hunger will follow. لا؟ So مودي ويلا لخا بغزاية وخد بابا يوسف ويلا تلاقيشنا إلى هر أو شكلة مشيخة ويلا تلاقيشنا ويلا جوخيلا ويلا أيضا قد ويلا يمينة ملكة فرعون ومصيلة قد خاميلة ما خلطة شواشنا قد نشواشنا خينة سبب تاتيوا كبنا بر شواشنا إذهابي والو بريوتا قد تاتيوا كبنا. So after prosperity there was hunger, and that is when God gave him 2 sons, and he called the first one Manasseh and Menashe. يعني علىها بتمنشيلي God will make me forget forget all what happened in my father's land, whatever they did to me, whatever happened to me, that he was going to forget. So what is that telling you? Again, it's patience. He's not calling the name of his son for a revenge, like a revenge name. He's not, there is no revenge in his heart that one day, here I am a king now, I can do anything, I can take over Israel, I am Egypt, I can be powerful. No, he's not thinking that way. He's thinking about love. See? مودي الوادة خبة كمو سبب كله دوسخ بلا قدية خبة كله جنجارة بلا قدية خبة كله بلا patience and patience ضرور دوا خبة قد شمت برونة كمتيلة من نشي كمو قد آلها بتشاوق لي منشن كل من دي تتيلة الله يقاطرت عواهاتي. Everything that happened to me that I will forget. And then on the other hand, he put his other son's name what? Ephraim, Kamodi, because God will prosper me. Alaha bit mazidli, bit yavili buzoda. Kam mazidli alaha. Kamodi come outly fruitful. Now I am fruitful. So he was thinking always positive. What makes him think positive with all what he went through? He went from the well to prison and now he's into palace. He's not saying, this is when man changes. This is when you know the true person. You can see his true colors, as we say. Imatnasha havila power, mobtawit biye. Makhal miskina yambane gudane. See? Mobtawit. Wants to stay away or he wants to help. You see? And that's what the whole thing. This is when you see the man's true colors. Is when he was powerful. He is the same guy as he was in prison. He's not reacting differently. He's not saying, let me name my sons one revenge and one fire and one this. No. He is naming them according to his heart. The way he is feeling. So, and what happened in Genesis 50, 18 through 21? Qarela qalam surah, please. Genesis 50, 18 through 21.
I read it.
She's reading Nasir and then you read English.
وزلن أبقى خنواته وكلهم قاموا ومروا ها أخنا قاتوا رجواته ومر إلا يوسف لا صديقهم سبب قامون بادت على هون وأخذوا شولوخن اللي بشدا علىها شوال قوطها قم عودوا قد عودوا أخديو يوما المخوة طيبها جورا وآدية لا زاديتهم أنا بترسل اللوخن ويالوخن ويويلي لبا ويزبلة لبا.
بس Go ahead.
And his brothers also went and bowed down before his face, and they said, Behold, we are your servants. Joseph said to them, Do not be afraid, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Now, therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them.
What would you do if you were 17 years old and your brother threw you in a well and then... But just think for a second. What if there was water in that well, right? And then he was sold. He was 17 years old. And here, this is the time for his revenge. It comes that everything what goes around comes around, right?
Yep.
But he's not doing that. They are afraid of him. Why are you afraid?
They know what they did.
Because you think that he is just like you. See? That is why always good people fall into a trap of bad people, because they always think they're just as good as they are. Sometimes you have friends and you come to them and you do a good deed with them, you're going to try to help them, but then you're the one that falls the victim for whatever happens. No? Why? Because you think they're just as good as you are. And the same thing happens here. They think he's as bad as they are and he's going to revenge from them. But what is the best thing he says to them? Look at this. He said,
I never learned.
but he said, but as for you, you meant evil against me. But he said, but God meant it for good. For good for who? For them. For good for them. Why? Because there was no food. They needed food, and now their brother is in charge of all the food. And that is why it's an amazing story, because of his patience. Come on. Sabab in lavi wale mariachtet bina hadir danet sepe wachina prakev. If he was one of them, now it would have been a sword against his brothers. He could have easily got him. You remember he got them arrested, right?
Yeah.
Because he wanted just to make sure his young brother is alive. They didn't do the same thing to him. Because Joseph and Benjamin were from Rachel. Joseph and Benjamin were from Rachel. And the other brothers, they were from Leah. And of course from the maids as well. But it was Rachel versus Leah. But Rachel passed away. So now these two young brothers, Joseph and Benjamin, were the youngest. And now he's worried about his little brother Benjamin. So kabud hada modi le marele khushun memun nekhuni bidwaqa le khamen khunawat diya matwer gudusa. He takes one of his brothers and he put him in jail so until they bring his little brother so he can see him. See? And that was a tough task for Jacob to let now Benjamin go with them as well, because you know they did something. Always Jacob's heart always was telling him that your son is not dead. He always had the feeling that Joseph will be alive one day, you know, and his dream comes true because he's alive. But what happened here? See, a man that went through so much, and now the people that caused it, they're right in front of you, and you have the upper hand on them. And what do? You tell them, listen, I know you meant evil, but God turned it into goodness. How amazing is that? This is what you call love. This is what's amazing about Joseph. So Joseph, what happened at the end? We know that he reunites with his dad, and his dad comes to Egypt, and they live in Egypt. And how many people come to Egypt? 70? 70 people come to Egypt. And when they leave 2 million.
2 million.
When Moses comes. Right?
Yep.
So what happened with Joseph? What does Joseph mean? It means God will increase. Right? God will increase. So they walk in 70 and they come out 2 million. Who's going to bring them out? Moses. And we go to Moses. We know Moses' story, right? How many years after Joseph? 430 years. أربعمائة وثلاثين من بر بابا يوسف تاته موشة.
هنا يوسف ماري لقاتل مارا لازا بيتون أنا ميتن إنه بردي ألاها بتقالط لوخ من دا يقرب لا بلوخ الأرض دي بابا أوراهم واسخط وياقو يكبدي لأروخ.
إيش مايه؟ أتكبايه بس مجال. So مودي لوايا لخا. It's time for Moses to interfere. Now we need to know the patience of Moses. Oh, Moses have to have patience. Oh. Who's going to read this for me? Exodus 2, 10 through 15. جواك تسين. طيب. بزايد؟
Yep.
يا باي مناظير.
And the child grew and
She brought him into Pharaoh's daughters, and he became her son.